Senator Diamond, did
Yeah.
you say you'd rather be on Judiciary Committee?
No, I love this.
I've been listening in. They started at 9 and they're still going on 2 bills.
Oh my
Um,
word.
and they might get a half-hour lunch break and then continue. So I think I'll recommend that you you could move that along a little better, maybe.
Guarantee we'd move it along, believe me.
So
One
we'll
of
keep
my
that in mind.
bills the other day at VLA, the only bill, 7 hours of testimony. I thought I was going to kill myself.
I can't imagine.
Remind me to never be on VLA.
Absolutely. Everybody's hanging themselves, after the.
Stay right here.
There were hundreds of people testifying.
Oh my good Lord.
Was that about tethering?
No, it was my medical marijuana attacked the agency bill.
Oh.
I think Darlene and I were both there.
Yes, we were.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Because I
Yes.
commented how nice it was. I felt right at home because
And
you
poor-
two were there.
And poor Senator Farron, he hops on and he's like looking and he's looking. I'm like, yeah, you're in the right committee.
I know.
I'm in the wrong one.
Okay, what do we got here? We got enough.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Senator Farron, oh, good. Now we can.
There he
start.
is. 8,
That's good.
9.
All right. Okay, here we go. Anybody have anything before we start? Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the work session of the Committee on Transportation. We're pleased you could be with us today. This meeting is live streamed on the committee's YouTube channel, and all the participants via Zoom can be seen and heard when your mic is on, and speakers will be recognized by the chair. Meeting is also recorded and available on the committee's YouTube after meeting is concluded. This is a work session, not a public hearing, so it's primarily for the purpose of the committee members discussing each of the bills, coming to a conclusion. Members, of course, may request information through the chair if there's somebody else you'd like to have add to the discussion. And then we'll make sure that all the votes are visually verifiable. And we will now ask the committee members to introduce themselves, and we'll start with Senator Farron. Good afternoon, Senator Farron.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Brad Farron. I live in Norridge Walk and represent the fine people of the majority of Somerset County, as well as the town of Rome and Kennebec County.
Indeed you do. Senator Chipman.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Senator Ben Chipman. I represent Senate District 27, which is part of the city of Rome.
Great. Representative Wayne Perry.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wayne Perry. I represent House District 10, which covers Arundel, Dayton, and most of Lyman.
Thank you. Representative Lynn Williams. Oh, you're on mute.
Always.
There you go.
I'm Lynn Williams. I represent House District 135, which is Bar Harbor, Lemoyne, and Mount Desert.
Thank you very much. Representative Dustin White.
I don't see him yet.
Representative Mike Perkins.
Good afternoon. I'm representing Mike Perkins. I represent District 77. That's Oakland and Sydney.
Excellent. Representative Mark Bryant.
I don't see him either.
I think he has another committee. Representative Bruce White.
Hi, yes, thank you, Senator Diamond. I am Bruce White from District 109, which is approximately half of Waterville.
Thank you, sir. Representative Tom Martin. You're not driving, are you, Representative Martin?
No, I'm parked. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name's Tom Martin. I represent House District number 57, which is the towns of Green and Savannas.
Thank you, sir. Representative Kevin O'Connell, out of the bucket.
Thank you, sir. Kevin O'Connell, District 128, and I represent almost all the people in the city of Berwick.
Sir, Representative Rich Sebra from Naples.
Don't see him.
Oh, see him?
No.
Representative Danny Martin, House Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, folks. Danny Martin, House 150, located in northern Worcester County.
Thank you, sir. And I'm Bill Diamond, represent Senate District 26. I live in Wyndham, and my towns circle the Lake of Sebago. We have Sam Prower, our analyst, Karen Netto, our analyst, and Darlene Semino as our clerk. We ready to begin everything? Representative Martin, House Chair, are you all set?
I'm all set. You might, Mr. Chair, mention the order that we'll be taking the bills up this afternoon.
Happy to do that. Good point. we've had to change some things around because people have a lot of things going on. So we're going to start with LD 925, followed by 1122, 458, 1400, 1271, 1372, 1359, 1398, and 537. Okay, we'll open the first first work session on LD 925, resolve directing the Department of Transportation to develop a plan to redevelop exit 5 of Interstate 295 in Portland. And that was presented by Representative Lochner of Portland. Sam.
Thanks, Senator Diamond. So as the title suggests, this resolve directs the Department of Transportation to develop a plan by January 1st, 2023 to redevelop exit 5 Interstate 295 in Portland that eliminates redundant and unnecessary on-ramps and off-ramps and prioritizes restoring the land to be used for housing or neighborhood amenities. In reviewing this bill, I didn't note any technical issues, but I will note for the committee that in the bill analysis, I provided a link to the main DOT map that's highlighting the exits that are identified in the bill. And just made a note that I believe the department testified to this in the public hearing, but the redevelopment or removal of any roadway constructed with assistance of federal funds may have fiscal implications if federal approval is not obtained for the changes. And this could include paying back federal money that was put toward the roadway. We don't have a fiscal impact statement yet. However, I did receive information from Maine DOT that indicated that the study called for in this bill would cost an estimated $225,000 to $250,000. And that is what I have for you. Does anyone have questions?
Thank you. Are there questions of Sam from any committee member? Seeing none. I'm wondering if Joyce Taylor, Chief Engineer, is with us.
She should be. Yep, she is. Hold on.
Could we ask her to Oh, Joyce, oh, there you are.
Oh, yeah,
she is.
sorry. Things don't work as well in the car. I'm not, for chief engineer, I'm not as technically savvy as I should be probably.
Well, if you're having trouble, I feel better. I know you made some comment. There were a couple of questions that was floating around on this, and I know we just heard what projected fiscal note from DOT, but you had mentioned something about some federal implications financially, but also otherwise. Could you just briefly go over those again for the committee so we can get a good handle on this?
Yeah, let me clarify because it's actually probably a little different than what I had thought. And so if we were to abandon a piece of infrastructure, take it out, replace it before the end of its life, and we had used federal money, we have to get federal permission for that. If the feds agree to that, they could ask us, instead of actually paying them a check, what they would ask is that we pay a certain amount of money to go ahead towards other infrastructure that they would normally pay for, and that we would use an amount of state money. So we're still spending money, but they allow it to go back into the infrastructure. If they say, even if they say, nope, we don't want anything, no worries, there is a process that we have to go through. The first thing we have to do is see if the feds want it. And this is all laid out in legislation, federal rules. But the first thing we do, we can offer it to the Maine Housing Authority, see if they want it, but they would have to pay fair market value. It gets assessed. We could offer it to the municipality. It's supposed to be offered for recreational uses and other uses. So we'd have to look and see if that comes close to meeting it. And then we could offer it for sale. Even if we offer it to the municipality, it has to be fair market value. We cannot just give that land away. And if Nobody wants it, although that might be, I would assume, unlikely. But if nobody wanted it, we could put it up to bid, and we would have to take the high bidder. We can't just give this land away. The other thing I did want to point out that I hadn't thought about before is that, I think 9 acres was something that was used. We have so much drainage in this area that we would still have to have our drainage and some of the infrastructure that's there. So it would be highly unlikely that even if you took the ramps out, that all of that land would be usable. So I hope that's a little bit long-winded, but I hope it answers the question for you.
Thank you. So that number one, we'd need permission from the feds.
Absolutely.
And with that comes a financial obligation. We don't know how much that would be.
Right. Most likely, I can't say for definitely, which is why we didn't put the fiscal note on it. There would be some back and forth, and they would, probably take some of the money off just because it had been, we did use it. We used part of that. So, but I can't say for sure.
Okay. Thank you. Questions of the committee? Yes, Senator Chipman.
Thank you, Senator Diamond. So I just wanted to ask if we could bring Lucy Gibson, who's in the waiting room, into the meeting. She's, I believe, the engineer who was the author of the Libbytown Traffic Survey that was done a few years back to answer questions about the project. Is that possible to bring in Lucy?
Yes. Although we need to finish with Ms. Taylor first. See if anybody else has questions of Joyce Taylor.
I just have one question of Joyce Taylor, if I may.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So Joyce, so this bill, I believe, it's a resolve that calls for a study. So what you're talking about is sort of like what would happen if we did remove the ramps. But to study the issue, I mean, it's a $200-something thousand fiscal note to look into the idea of removing the ramp and everything that's involved. Is that correct?
Right. I mean, we did go back and look. The original study that we would have predicted like 10 years ago would have been 100,000, but similar studies are costing about the same thing right now.
That's just for a study, though. I mean,
correct.
Not for like what the other things you talked about with the federal government and some of those things.
Right.
That might be something the study would look at and come back and tell us all of the implications after the study is done.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Representative Danny Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, Joyce, the DOT testified in opposition to this bill during the public hearing. Is that still DOT's position?
Yes, it is. But we are willing. We acknowledge that there are certainly some issues in all of Portland around pedestrians and bicycling. And, we're certainly willing to go out and do a safety audit with the community and go look at the area and see if there are things we can do to help make it safer for people. And, I would offer to go out myself and do that with the community. And we do that often. So I would just put that out. We didn't mention that last time.
And also, if I may, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Most state agencies in disposition of land, disposal of land rather, need legislative approval. Is DOT exempt in regards to that?
I can't answer that. We can get back to you. What I have seen is federal. I'm getting a friend phoning in saying yes. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Farren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hey, thanks, Joyce, for being here. I understand that you folks obviously have looked at this in the past. How recently and what studies have been done? And in your professional opinion, is there any value in doing any additional studies? Or do you think we're kind of at that point and your suggestion of going out and meeting with the community and kind of walking around, bouncing some ideas is the best way to go forward?
Right. I mean, so it has been a little while, but I can tell you traffic has only grown. So our concerns will probably be magnified. The study itself shares the fact that we disagreed at the time. We had issues with how the study was done in terms of the numbers that were used and how the approach was done. And I think, I'm sure Ms. Gibson is aware of that. I think that at this point with the traffic numbers we have, we don't want to be disingenuous and to study something that we really don't see ourselves getting to a point where we would agree to take those ramps out. We think they are useful. I think Representative Perry, had a question about Maine Med. It does add a half a mile to the local road to get to Maine Med. I mean, there are issues here that we feel are broader. And I-95, it is a road of state significance. And, we understand that it has cut neighborhoods. We understand that happened. The reality is some of the ramps down there right now, and I think the group brought this up, do not meet today's design standards. One of the reasons we don't go in and fix them and bring them up to design standards is we would take more land at this point, and that's not obviously anything that anybody desires us to do.
Thank you. Representative Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Joyce, for being here. Yeah, and I took a quick ride down there. I mean, I've been taking that exit 5 ramp for about 42 years. I've lived in Cumberland County, York County my entire life. And I took a little ride around. And if my count's right, I think not only the half a mile, but I believe it adds 4 to 5 traffic lights or intersections and stuff if that ramp going onto Congress Street was changed. So I think it's a lot more than just a half a mile add getting to Maine Med coming off the interstate. And I think that you haven't mentioned, like you mentioned about you'd still have to do drainage, you'd still have to do all that stuff. So it would be a significant cost to DOT just to take the ramps out. There may be no recoup money. You would probably have to increase other intersections, I would think, or other ramps to accommodate the additional traffic. So is there any estimate on the extra cost it would take just to take the ramps out that was suggested? Even though I think it's a horrible idea for that Congress Street one. Do you have any idea what the cost would be in changes that would have to be made?
I mean, I think it's because we're in a really congested area. It's hard to tell, but with changing drainage around and some of the work you would have to do, I think it's fair to say it could be in the $1 million range because, and that's not even counting the fact that you are now impacting Forest Ave. Forest Ave intersection already has issues. You are going to send more traffic that way and you are going to impact that area. We'd probably have to look at adjusting traffic lights, look at turning movements. You're going to introduce some new left-hand turns and adding more, well, not new left-hand turns, but more traffic to left-hand turns. So there's work that comes in that general vicinity. So it's not just taking out ramps.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other questions of Ms. Taylor? Don't go away if you've got a few more minutes. I know you have to get it, but we'll ask Ms. Gibson.
Sure.
She would join us, and she is with us. Thank you. Welcome. Are you unmuted?
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yep, I'm in.
Senator Chipman, did you have a question to ask her in particular?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the study. I didn't know if you could just kind of give us just a 30,000 foot view of like what the study looked at and what the conclusions were and stuff. I know you were involved with putting that together and just kind of highlight that for us if you would.
Sure. Well, I know there was probably a history of this idea before we got involved in doing the study, but at the time it was 2012 to 2013. PATS, the region's MPO, issued an RFP to look at the ramp system on Exit 5 and the safety issues that are accompanying that, and explore alternatives, and including all the way to potentially redeveloping the land of the ramps. As we got started, that kind of the redevelopment part was taken out of the scope as just getting too far ahead. But so the study really focused on the traffic and safety implications of the current ramps, what the issues are, and explored a number of alternatives that could make things safer with great improvements in mobility for people walking and biking. Certainly circulation changes, some trips would be longer, there would be some impacts, but that overall there'd be a lot of benefit. And it, there's a lot of detail in the work that went into those conclusions.
Thank you. Senator Chipman, did you have other
Well,
questions?
I mean, what was the conclusion of that study, that there were more benefits than there weren't to do this? I
Yeah.
mean, in terms of like
Yeah.
the city, the community, the neighborhood,
Right.
the folks driving in cars and traffic and stuff like that. I mean, the study said that it made sense to do this, to remove
It
the ramp.
did.
Well,
And
what-
beyond the ramps, the other study also included looking at Congress and Park, which currently are one way between the interstate and St. John Street, and to make them each two-way, or to look at options of making one or the other two-way. And that also has huge benefits, especially with access to Maine Medical Center. It also is a lot more complicated to think about doing the two-way conversions with the ramps. So they did kind of go hand in hand as a whole
So
package.
the study recommended keeping the newer ramps that go to Fall River Parkway in place, but removing the ones on and off
Right.
Congress Street.
Yeah. And again, as I think Joyce already said, the older ramps don't meet today's design standards. There would be no way to expand them unless you took away the 4 river ramps. There's not really, it's not like you could take housing away or private property. And so why not use the better designed ramps that have much lower accident rates for the weaving areas rather than these antiquated and, non-functional or obsolete ramps that see a lot of crashes, both for and this is especially for the northbound ramps going to Congress Street. Both the on-ramp and off-ramp see a lot of crashes. That's a lot of lives disrupted and damage and whatnot. And, there's not really a way to make them modern, and you have the other ramp so close by. So kind of making best use of the infrastructure that's already built. I'd have to think that those ramps are so old and obsolete, I can't see the federal government would say, you have to pay us back for them. I think they're beyond their useful life, but anyway, that's
Other questions of Ms. Gibson? I have a quick question, Ms. Gibson. When the study was done, did it take into consideration what we heard today and a couple of days ago regarding the federal implications and the federal permission grant would need requiring, and the drainage issues and all of those? Was that part of the study, do you think?
That was not in the scope. It was really more safety and traffic.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank
The
you.
FHWA representative was on the steering committee, so we certainly had, input from them.
We appreciate you being here, by the way. It's nice to have your testimony.
Yeah, no, it's great to be here. I'm
Other
happy to-
questions for Ms. Gibson? Seeing none, thank you very much. Questions, comments from the committee? Representative Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can't see doing a study on this. Like I said, I've gone through those ramps for virtually my whole driving life. And I think that to change some of those would just not be a good idea. So I will make a motion ought not to pass.
Motion is made, ought not to pass. Is there a second?
Second.
Second? Second, thank you. Discussion. Senator Chipman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I've been using these ramps for at least 20 years that I've lived in Portland, and long before the new ramps were built. And there's 2 sets of ramps that are very close together, and it's very redundant. And I find particular problems when I'm coming on to 295 to go north off Congress Street. When I come off that ramp onto the highway, there's a lane to the next to me on the left-hand side that are people that are coming off Fall River Parkway to go north on 295, and they're coming right up beside me, and that lane is in between me and the actual highway, and I find that particularly dangerous in that location. I'm not sure that, I definitely think that ramp should be removed. I think there's definitely some benefits to the neighborhood. The constituents that asked for this bill totally understand where they're coming from. So I'm just wondering if there's something that we can do. I mean, I don't know where the committee is on this bill, and if folks are not wanting to vote for this bill today, which may be the case, if there's some room for compromise and asking folks from DOT to meet with people in the neighborhood to come up with some things that can be done to make the area safer in terms of pedestrian crossings and things that could be done to make it safer for people to live there. And I don't know if there's, if that could be done in a way of a letter to the department or some agreement from the department to do that. But there's definitely some serious safety problems there. And I see a lot of accidents myself at those ramps from cars colliding with each other and people trying to cross there on the crosswalks and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's a possible avenue for us, but I would like to see something done if we're not going to pass the study.
Thank you, Senator Chipman. Let me ask Joyce Taylor, if this bill is, the motion is made ought not to pass, if that prevails, would you think it would be something the department would be willing to do, as Senator Chipman was just suggesting, if we send a letter to you, to DOT, saying we'd like to have you meet with the community and see what you could come up with just for other ideas?
Yes, I've already talked to our state traffic engineer. He and I are both willing to engage and to look at the crash locations as well as the bicycle and pedestrian options and see if we can come up with some ideas and then figure out a way to get things done.
Excellent. Appreciate that. Senator Farren.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I know Representative Perry made the motion, but I would be fine with adding a letter from the committee to the department, just clarifying that for Senator Chipman and his constituents.
Excellent. Thank you. Representative Perry?
Yes, no, I was going to suggest that before Senator Chipman was speaking. I think one of the ones that might need to be looked at a little bit is the one on Park Avenue that goes up around. You know, that might be an issue there, but I see more and more traffic being there, and to take some of them out, we don't know what the accident issues would be on the other intersections and ramps if you move all that traffic that's going on the current ramps to those places. So I think you know, that'd be a good idea, but I think it'd be a good idea to send a letter to DOT and have them see if there's some small changes that can be made that that might help the community, but also, you know, might make things a little safer for the traveling public.
Perfect. Senator Chipman, we appreciate that thought, because I think if the committee proceeds with not, even if it's unanimous, that would be that would be the understanding. We would confirm that with the committee as a whole after the vote. Representative Danny Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the pending motion is ought not to pass.
That's right.
And it was further amendment pursuant to Representative Perry, who made the motion to have the committee direct a letter to DOT. And I'm assuming that the committee member that seconded that motion is okay with that amendment?
Let me interject there, Representative Martin. The motion is still ought not to pass with no amendment. It's just that the committee, like we do in other letters, will agree to send a letter, but it would not impact the motion other than the understanding that we will send a letter to DOT.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do understand that. I guess my question was to the individual who seconded the motion, because Representative Perry's motion was kind of now includes that letter. So my question is the individual who seconded the motion okay with that?
That was me, yes. Yes, Representative.
Okay. Thank you, Representative Martin. So Senator Chipman, yes.
I just wanted to know if we're going to do this, because I understand, you know, we want to try to get a unanimous report, and it doesn't seem like there's majority support for maybe doing the study, although I do support the study, just so people know. But could we be more specific in the letter that we asked, you know, DOT to have a public meeting and specifically invite members of the Libbytown Neighborhood Association, members of the public and city officials to that meeting that would be publicly advertised, and that specifically invite members of the Libbytown Neighborhood Association, area neighbors, and city officials?
Yeah, I think we can do that. In fact, we would ask that to be included, and obviously the committee would see the letter before it's sent out to make sure everybody's comfortable with that.
Okay, thank you.
And if that goes along with the unanimous report, I think that's a good agreement. Other questions from the committee? We have a motion, ought not to pass, and that's the motion. But the agreement is after that we will have a letter sent to DOT asking DOT to meet with the community, and we'll add some specifics to that as we've just heard. Ready for the motion to be ready for the vote? Darlene, it's up to you.
Senator Diamond,
Yes.
Representative Martin,
Yes.
Senator Farren,
Yes.
Representative Perkins,
Yes.
Representative Perry,
Yes.
Representative Williams,
Yes.
Representative Dustin White is absent, Senator Chipman,
Yes.
Representative Bryant,
Yes.
Representative Bruce White,
Yes.
Representative Tom Martin. No, we lost him. Representative O'Connell
Yes.
and Representative Seaver is absent. 10 in the affirmative, 3 absent.
Motion ought not to pass prevails, 10-0, I'm sorry. And so that closes the work session. Now, Sam, we'll ask you you've heard all this, you put the letter together and then bring it back to the committee and we'll all take a look and then we'll send it off to DOT. Committee all satisfied with that? Thank you, everybody. Nice job. Came together. That was, it was good work. We'll now open up the work session on LD 458. Excuse me, I'm sorry, 1122. 1122 is the next bill. Work session, and that is an act to promote public safety by allowing lighted signs on certain vehicles presented by Senator Chipman. Sam.
Thanks, Senator Diamond. This bill authorizes the display of illuminated signs on delivery vehicles that transport customers or property, as long as the only information on the sign is the name and telephone number of the company providing the delivery. It also amends the law to clarify that an illuminated sign with the same information may be affixed to the roof of the vehicle for the conveyance of passengers. I included in the testimony section some information provided by the sponsor, Senator Chipman, just about this bill, and also noted that the Department of Public Safety had offered an amendment at the public hearing, and I believe that was in conjunction with Senator Chipman, but if I'm wrong about that, please correct me. And you'll see on the second page of the bill, I have provided under the notes section an example of what that amendment would be. And what it would do is highlighted it in yellow for the committee. It would add the language, the sign may only be illuminated when making an actual delivery. The sign may not have words that scroll or change messages while in transit and is limited to 1 sign per vehicle. The rest of the bill would remain as currently written. And I wanted to note for the committee here that there were some questions raised at the public hearing about the enforceability of this law. And if the committee is concerned about that, not saying you should make a change, but if you are, I also noted here that one option you might consider is clarifying to require that the vehicle be parked or pulled over while the sign's illuminated, and that may create some more objectivity into when the delivery is actually happening. Otherwise, I didn't note technical issues or legal issues for the bill, but I will just note for the committee that we do have regulations like this in place in statute, and it doesn't seem like the committee was talking about going this way, but potential concern does arise with like free speech issues if you get into different types of content regulation. So to the extent you were to start regulating what specifics people can say on their vehicles, then you start getting into a different kind of territory, legal territory. But that's not implicated by the language in front of you. So if anyone has any questions, I can take them now, and otherwise it's all you.
Thank you, Sam. We have a question, Senator Chipman.
Just wanted to say that I'm on board with the amendment. Actually worked with Lieutenant Scott, who drafted the amendment, and I'm in agreement with the changes that they suggest being made. I wouldn't want to see us further amend it to require vehicles to be parked, because I think when the vehicle is making a delivery and pulling down someone's driveway or pulling down their road and you're still moving, you want to be able to see the sign and know there's delivery that you're expecting to be coming to your house, as opposed to someone who's trying to do a robbery or whatever else they might be doing. I brought the bill forward because it's a public safety concern with all the deliveries being made these days of food, particularly being delivered to people's homes. That when, you know, someone pulls up to your house, you can look out and see that it's Domino's Pizza, whoever it is. You see the sign on their roof of their vehicle, you know that it's who you're expecting before you open the door. That's why I brought the bill forward. And just to remind folks who were here a couple sessions ago, this is almost identical to a bill we passed, I believe 4 years ago. That I think was vetoed at the time, but you know, the legislature did pass it. And with all the deliveries being made these days, particularly with COVID, I thought it's even more relevant that we have something like this in place. I've seen delivery vehicles driving around all the time at nighttime to dine in, Uber Eats, Domino's Pizza. They got these signs on the top of their vehicle that are a plastic, you know, box type sign that has a cord going into the vehicle that is a lighted sign, but they can't plug it in. They can't turn it on because state law doesn't allow them to. So I think the amendment Lieutenant Scott came up with, it says only when they're actually making the deliveries, not driving around all the time with it on, but when they're making the delivery, that it's plugged in and it can be lit up at night. People can see who it is. If they're circling around the block looking for a street number or a house number, which could be the case, the police in the area would see that they're making a delivery and they're not just circling for some other reason and up to no good. So they maybe wouldn't pull them over because they know they're making a delivery. So I think that's another reason to allow it to be lit up when the delivery is being made, but not when the vehicle is necessarily parked. In terms of enforcing, I mean, a lot of the laws we pass come down to enforcement. I think the important thing is to have this on the books so that these signs can be allowed to be lit up. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Chipman. Representative O'Connell.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't have the bill in front of me, but is there any restrictions on the color of the signs?
Sam?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm just rereading it to make sure. I do not see a specific restriction on the color and the language.
My only concern is I know there's an Uber driver I see around where I live, and he has a blue sign right in the windshield. It looks just like a police sign. It could be mistaken for police. That's my only concern.
So yeah, the question is, would the sign itself be blue, maybe similar to blue and maybe confusing of a police officer? Yeah.
That and or if it's red, fire department or ambulance.
Sam?
The only thing I might say to that, and if the state police are available, it might be worth asking them, is we do have other restrictions in 29A on the color of lights that are allowed to be on vehicles. And I know we have, I know in terms of like red and blue, those specifically address like flashing lights. And I don't know about non-flashing lights off the top of my head. So I can check, but Lieutenant Scott might also have information on that for you.
Thank you. We'll go to Lieutenant Scott just a second. Representative Martin, Danny Martin had a question.
No, thank you. I was just going to ask Mr. Chair to see if Lieutenant Scott was available, because my recollection is regarding the state police's concern was the delivery point to and from the delivery point. So I wonder if Lieutenant Scott could chime in.
Yep, we're going right to him. Lieutenant Scott, welcome. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. So with regard to the color isn't specifically addressed within this bill or within this statute. But if you look at 29A, it already has some prohibitions within it under 1909B for optional auxiliary lighting. And it says that an optional auxiliary light, which this would meet that definition, cannot be a color contrary to statute. And within the statute under 1909B, it says that to the front of a vehicle can be from white to amber only. To the rear of a vehicle can be from red to amber only, and on the sides can be amber. So it's our opinion that this light would have to follow those guidelines as well. It's going to probably eliminate the sign that was mentioned by Senator Chipman, Domino's, because I believe that is blue in color. So if that were to be illuminated, blue would be a violation under 1909B, in my opinion.
Thank you. Don't go away. We might have some questions on that. Questions of Lieutenant Scott? So on top of on the roof, then you mentioned the front and the back. Does the current law also address something on top of the vehicle?
Yes, sir. It's all lighting that's illuminated from a vehicle. And so anything that can be seen from the front of the vehicle, which would include the roof, and it would follow those color patterns. And then to the rear and to the sides, they each have specific colors that would be authorized to be illuminated.
Okay, thank you for that. Questions from the committee of Lieutenant Scott? Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Lieutenant Martin.
Lieutenant Scott, so the amendment that appears that you've agreed upon does state that the lighted sign located on the vehicle has to be parked. Is that correct?
No, sir, Mr. Martin. We didn't include that. I think that was brought up by somebody else. The bill that we put in just said that it could only be illuminated while making the actual delivery, because we did have a problem with it being on all the time as an advertisement tool while traveling throughout the state of Maine.
All right. So my understanding is your amendment would state that the delivery, the point from point A to point B, the sign could be lighted as long as it's for delivery purposes, correct?
Our bill says when making the actual delivery. So it would be my opinion, if we were to enforce that statute, it couldn't be the entire time that they're making the delivery. Like if they left a location and traveled 7 or 8, 9, 10 miles, the actual delivery would be when they got in that immediate vicinity of the delivery. So it still has some vagueness to it, and I understand that, but it's certainly more comfortable for us to be able to say you can't drive around with it on all the time.
So a pizza person delivers a pizza to point A, and he gets to point A and discovers that that's the wrong location and travels another 8 or 9 miles. What's your opinion on that one?
It would follow that when they're making the actual delivery. So again, my opinion, the actual delivery would be at the point that they get in that immediate vicinity, and perhaps we could better define that if that made the committee comfortable. But right now it just says while making the actual delivery, and we felt like that would be at least a step in the direction for us to be able to regulate it, as opposed to just having carte blanche running the lights whenever they felt like it.
Thank you, Senator Farren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Lieutenant Scott. I think the committee knows we have this bill. I think we got one later today about lights on tow trucks. We talked about lights on fire vehicles. We've talked, there's a whole bunch of different entities that are looking to have lights on our roadways. And my biggest concern with this is that clarification you just talked about. I think if you leave it open to delivery from, some people are going to interpret that from the time they leave the place of business till 10 miles out. Others are going to leave it when they go down, Senator Chipman talked about going down a roadway or something like that. I think the burden off from police officers, we ought to think about trying to tighten that up a little bit so it's clearly when they can and when they can't. And I guess my question is there any concern? I mean, we talked about these auxiliary lights for our volunteer fire departments and EMS folks. It was for safety, but also for people to get out of the way and know what's going on. Any concern that we're diluting some of that? I mean, we can have the sides of the roads look like Christmas trees with every organization having their lights on, and just kind of wondering from a law enforcement standpoint, a safety standpoint, if that's a legitimate concern or not.
Well, Senator Farren, I do think it's a fair assessment, and we don't want to over dilute the environment with lighting. And so we talk about that when it comes to safety vehicles, and the fact that safety vehicles have lights that blink, flash, rotate, oscillate, far more distracting. In this particular instance, we were thinking that this, as long as properly regulated, would be similar to that of a taxi cab that's already authorized to have a sign on it that's already lit up. It says taxi on the front and a phone number on the back. So I guess our minds went in that direction of a small and simple sign that we could regulate. Discussed it with DOT. Steve Landry and I had a discussion via email, making sure that this was something we all felt comfortable with, and that it wasn't going to compromise safety, and it wasn't going to start to dilute the environment with lighting. So it's a good point. It's a valid point. We're not trying to push the committee in any direction. We merely work to make it a bill that we felt we could live with and enforce, to make sure that there wasn't an abuse as a result of it. But the size of the sign is important. Whether or not it can be of certain colors is important. And I think when you combine this statute with the others, it does regulate at least the brightness of it, the size of it, the colors of it. And now we're starting to get down to, is there a way to allow it, but not have it on all the time and dilute that environment? So I don't think that I have a better answer than that. It's a legitimate concern.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Sam, you had your hand up.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to provide a little bit more information to the committee. So as I suspected, the blue light prohibition statute is not specific to a flashing light. So if it's Title 29A, Section 2054, subsection 2, paragraph D, and it basically says, except as provided in this paragraph, a vehicle may not be equipped or display a blue light. So, and then it gives, you know, the examples, which are mostly like Department of Public Safety vehicles. So if, you know, the thing about our lights in 29A is they're a little, the color information is a little buried. So if you are interested, if the committee is interested in moving forward with this, it might actually be nice or preferable to put in the law what color of light is allowed and then reference the other sections. That would make it crystal clear to whoever's trying to follow the law what they're allowed to do. And then just in terms of the determining when making a delivery actually means, I think it would be beneficial for the committee to make it crystal clear in law what that, like, you know, how far from the site of delivery that the lights would actually be permitted. The other thing you could do is you could direct the department to develop it by rule if you didn't want to hash out the details here. So those are just some options.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Appreciate that. Senator Chipman.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Sam. So we could direct the department to address that through rulemaking. I like that idea. And I think Lieutenant Scott's really done his homework on this, working with traffic engineers and drafting this amendment. I think it makes sense. And, you know, I mean, if we pass this bill and it becomes law, and we see it being abused in any way, we can always address it with another bill in the future. But I think that it makes sense to do this. I mean, it really is a public safety issue as more and more deliveries are getting made, particularly in the winter months when it gets dark at 4:30 in the afternoon and people are ordering food and things are being delivered at 6 or 7 o'clock at night. To be able to look out and see that that's what they're expecting before they open their door up with all the home invasions and things happening these days, I just think it's important that we pass this. So I'd like to, you know, support the work Lieutenant Scott's done with the amendment and move the bill forward if we can. So I guess if a motion's in order, if we could make a motion about to pass as amended using the amendment Lieutenant Scott drafted and directing the department to address the issues through rulemaking that have been brought up here.
Motion ought to pass as amended has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Oh, here, seconded by Representative Martin. Representative White, Bruce White, you have it.
Hi, thank you, Senator Diamond. The amendment, I don't even know. Yeah, when it was talking about the light can go on when you're in the immediate vicinity. And I think for the most part, people use common sense and, you know, we expect that wouldn't be a major problem. But I mean, I was wondering, should we specify when they are on the street of delivery? Now, some streets, like in Waterville, Silver Street is a long street, whereas my street, Silver Mountain, is a shorter street. But that might be something to consider, whether that is put in the rulemaking process or, you know, I just thought of that. It would take some of that unknown stuff out. And I expect most people are going to follow the guidelines fairly well, but we have DoorDash, Uber drivers, and then specific companies. So it could get a little complicated at times. So
Thank you.
Yeah. And I don't know how that would all work.
Yeah. Good suggestion. We appreciate that. Representative Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a question for Lieutenant Scott. Lieutenant, like you said, you know, you would interpret it to be close to the thing, but somebody else may interpret it a different way. Would it be beneficial for us to come up with a number, a half a mile of the address or 500 feet of the address, or, you know, something that if they put it on 3/4 of a mile, it's not a big deal, or they put it on 1/4 of a mile, it's not a big deal, you know, but come up with a number, a half a mile. And that way, you know, if you're driving 5 miles, you can't have it on for the 5 miles. You're going to get close to the address and flip your switch and turn it on. Would that be helpful for us to come up with something like that?
Yeah, Representative Perry, that actually sounds like a pretty good idea. Sounds reasonable to me. If there was a distance on there, that would certainly take away any ambiguity or discretion that you didn't want applied in the field.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, as a friendly amendment to the amendment, I would suggest adding within a half a mile of delivery address.
Motion as a friendly amendment, is that Senator Chipman, do you agree with that?
I'd like to do 1 mile if we can, because if they're lost or they're on the wrong street by mistake or something like that, and they think they're getting close, I mean, I'd like to do 1 mile, if that'd be okay.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, I think a half a mile's fine, but whatever.
Okay,
If
so
they're on White Street and they think they're supposed to be on White Road, you know, I don't want people to get caught up in this. I think a mile is reasonable, and, you know, I mean, would you still do rulemaking, Lieutenant Scott, on or would this clear things up on that?
Senator Chipman, if we're asked to, there is already authority within the statute to do so under 1922. It does give the commissioner the authority to do that. So if it became a problem and we were asked to address it, we could do that through rulemaking.
Okay. So I was going to suggest saying that, like, once the delivery is made, the light must then be turned off, but I don't think we need to be that specific if you already have the authority to address it in statute.
are you accepting the 1 mile? Is that everybody okay with that? Representative Danny Martin, you made the second. Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Good. Okay, Representative Perkins. There you go.
Sure, thank you, Chairman, thank you. Me personally, and the Senator Chipman has said this is for a safety feature. So what is it safety driving a half a mile or a mile down a road and flashing that you're delivering pizza? Wouldn't it be safety? And Senator Chipman said this himself. When the person drives in the dooryard, you peek out your window, you don't know who it is. Well, when you drive in the dooryard, you think you're there, then flip your light on and say, hey, it's a pizza man delivering pizza. That would be what I would go for. And I think that only makes common sense. When a gentleman gets in the dooryard, or the lady gets in the dooryard, where they think they're delivering pizza or chicken or whatever it is, they flip their little light on, and now you know that someone is there. But driving down a road with flashing lights on top of the car or lights on the side of the car doesn't make much sense, be it a mile or half mile. Maine state law says we have to signal our intentions to turn 100 feet. Well, why don't we do it 100 feet then? But a mile down the road is not accepted to me. I'll be voting no if it's a mile. If it's 100 feet, I'll accept it.
Thank you, Representative Perkins. Senator Chipman.
Just in response to that, you know, if they're in a congested area, like in the district that I represent, and they're circling around the block trying to find the house number, you know, that the person lives at while they're making the delivery, and people are out on the street, you know, a single lady's walking down the street and someone's circling around the block. I mean, they might think they're being stalked or something, but if there's a lit up sign on the roof of the vehicle and they can see, oh, they're making a delivery, it might create a little bit of ease their concerns a little bit, you know. And if the police, you know, we have a ordinance in Portland that says if someone circles a block more than 3 times, they're violating an ordinance for circling the block more than 3 times. So I think it would help for the police to know that they're making a delivery and they're not up to no good. If they're looking for a house number while they're very close to the house, but still trying to find the house to make that delivery. And that's, I think, the benefit of having the light on. And that block, if they're circling a block, that block could be a little over half a mile, and as they circle it, looking for the person's house. That's why I think the 1 mile.
Okay, where Representative Perkins, yes, go ahead.
One more thing, sir.
Yep.
I understand what he's saying, and I wholeheartedly. But why make this problem for the city of Portland and the rest of the state of Maine's problem? I have a little thing right here called a cell phone, and on my cell phone, I can put in the exact address And I bet 99% of all these delivery boys have them right in their car too. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. We need to come to a conclusion on this as soon as we can. Representative Danny Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A few minutes ago, I believe we had consensus on this bill in the amended version. And I believe the consensus was what our analyst suggested with having the department through the APA and rulemaking process, where it became complicated and where it now appears this is going to be a divided report, is whether or not this is going to be a half mile or a 1 mile. So let's think about this. If you guys want to, if the committee wants a unanimous report, we're going to have to compromise here.
Representative Bruce White, thank you.
I don't want to beat it to death either, but I would like to hear from Lieutenant Scott maybe on the, thoughts between on the specific street or so many, a mile or half a mile difference.
Yeah, thank you.
Would being on the street make more sense or no sense?
Lieutenant Scott?
Yes, sir. So I'm trying to understand the question, and I guess at what point does the light become effective, and what was the goal behind the bill? And my understanding, the goal behind the bill was to promote safety, both for the motorists that were in that general environment, so that they would know that there was a vehicle traveling slow, looking for an address, maybe operating not dangerously, but maybe just somebody to watch out for because they may be stopping quickly or taking a turn into a driveway. So because it was twofold in that you wanted it for public safety and then the individual safety who was receiving the actual delivery, it did make sense to try to find some compromise rather than just turning it on in the driveway. But putting the sign on in the driveway certainly meets that portion of the concern, is that the intended recipient knows it, or has a better belief that they know who's at their front door. So I think it's up to the committee. The state police doesn't have a bias in this whatsoever. We're just here to try to help offer information that you find helpful. But if the committee decides they want it in the driveway only, we would take no issue with it. If they allowed it for a half a mile to a mile, I think we really feel like that's a decision that should be made in this group. Our primary concern was we just didn't want them running around all the time, unlimited, to cause that distraction and be a bit of a public safety concern at that point.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Sam, could you give us your understanding of what the amendment is currently?
So I'm not, I guess, clear because it doesn't seem like there's consensus, but as Representative Martin pointed out, I think the last place it sounded like there was any consensus was that the committee would go with the language suggested in that was worked on by the state police and Senator Chipman, and then specify that the state police will determine by rule like when making a delivery actually means. So like what distance that would be, and those sort of things. And since then I haven't heard consensus since the conversation went to whether it should be a half mile or a mile or 100 feet or.
Well, I just want to establish where we are at the moment. So everybody understand where we are with the proposed amendment. Senator Chipman?
Just going to suggest, why don't we just go back to that the suggestion of Representative Martin, that we just say, go with the amendment that Lieutenant Scott drafted, let them define what making a delivery means through rulemaking and go with that, and not get into a half mile versus a mile versus 100 feet or whatever. If we can get around that, get behind that and let Lieutenant Scott do some rulemaking and define what making a delivery means, that might be our best bet. Because I think Lieutenant Scott knows what we're trying to get at here, and so we can have rulemaking on that part of it.
Thank you. Representative Danny Martin?
So Senator Chipman, I can support that if you're willing to withdraw your last consideration on whether it's going to be a mile or mile, and just let mile or half mile, and let the department come out with their best thoughts through the APA and rulemaking process. If you're willing to withdraw that latest and greatest, I can support that.
Yep, yeah, I can do that.
Okay, good. Senator Farren.
Yeah, hey, listen, I don't want to belabor this anymore and where it's going, but I just want to make sure I'm clear, because I just heard Lieutenant Scott before, and we respect the opinion and whatever when we was talking about this, even though we had the conversation about rulemaking, really kind of turned to this committee to define that a little bit and give that direction, because from park to a mile is a big thing. And I just don't want to punt our responsibility to the Department of Public Safety when we should be doing that work other than just passing it, moving it along. And
Okay, so if the amendment that we just heard, if make sure I have it, is that the light can be on when making a delivery, that is something that ordinarily rules the APA would consider when they're writing their rules. So I don't think we're passing it off on the lieutenant necessarily. Nor do I think the committee has to drop down that far into the weeds, because the amendment says while making a delivery. I think it's legitimate for us to expect rules to define delivery. That's how the APA process has worked pretty well, and I think that relieves the committee of having to decide specifically number of feet or the number of mile, half mile, or any of that. Representative Tom Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would have to agree that I think who better to determine what that distance would be than the state police. So I would agree with going the course. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Representative Wayne Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lieutenant Scott.
Yes, sir.
Would you like us to make a number, or do you guys want to leave it up to rulemaking?
Well, Representative Perry, I respect the committee and their wishes, and I thinking as you're working through this, that when I heard a half a mile come up, it sounded like there was consensus, and it sounded like at least I would know what the goal was behind the legislation. We could certainly come up with our own opinion, but again, if the group had that consensus, if they're going in that direction of a half a mile and it was in statute, it would make it clear for us and all police officers what that meant. But we do have rulemaking authority, and if there isn't something put in this statute by you folks, we would do something to make sure that we determine that. I hope that answers your question without really sounding like I'm skating the issue.
Thank you.
Okay, remember that there's probably not going to be consensus on when you get down to feet. I mean, I think, again, this is something that the APA people, I mean, the rulemaking that's what they get paid for, is to go through this kind of thing. But anyway, Representative Tom Martin again, yes.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. I guess, a half a mile in Benton, Maine's a long ways. A half a mile in the city of Portland's probably forever. So, I mean, you get those considerations. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That's a good point. Thank you for that. Senator Chipman.
Yeah, I just don't want to see us get into that, because we've talked about a half mile. I said I preferred a mile. I outlined the reasons for that. Someone else said they wanted 100 feet. Other people wanted the vehicle parked in the driveway. Like we're all over the place on distance. So I think we should just not get into the weeds on that and leave it up to rulemaking.
Anything else from Representative Danny Martin?
Just very briefly, Mr. Chair, thank you. Through what's great about the rulemaking process in APA, the public has an opportunity to submit comments. And quite frankly, I suspect in regards to the issue, we'll have several comments, or the state police will have several comments regarding whether it's got to be 100 feet, half a mile, or 1 mile. So I think we've reached consensus.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none. Is everybody clear on the amendment? Everybody's okay with it? We're just talking about delivery. We're not getting into specifics. We're saying that's going to be taken care of with the rulemaking process. Any further discussion? Ought to pass as amended is the motion. Yours, Darlene.
Senator Diamond.
Yes.
Representative Danny Martin.
Yes.
Senator Farren.
yes.
Representative Perkins.
Yes.
Representative Perry.
Reluctantly, yes.
Representative Williams,
Yes.
Representative Dustin White is absent. Senator Chipman,
Yes.
Representative Bryant,
Yes.
Representative Bruce White,
Yes.
Representative Tom Martin,
Yes.
Representative O'Connell,
Yes,
and Representative Seaver is absent. So 11 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
The motion not to pass is amended, prevails 11-0. Thank you very much. Senator Chipman, do you have any more bills today?
No, not in this committee at least.
I'm just teasing you. Thank you very much. I mean, these kind of things happen, and good job at coming to a conclusion. I appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
I was thinking of Representative Williams and her story of 7 hours. I thought we might be getting closer to that.
Oh, hey, before we start the next one, can I get Representative Martin's vote on the prior bill on 925?
Yes.
It was ought not to pass, and it's unanimous.
And Senator Diamond, I will tell you, that bill was all about rulemaking and the APA.
Doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me. Did you get that vote?
He didn't
Yeah.
answer. Yes? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to our third bill out of 9, LD 458, an act to support public transportation infrastructure in York and Cumberland counties, presented by Representative O'Neill. Sam, I think we have some movement on this. Are you aware?
Thanks, Senator Diamond.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Nope, go ahead.
So this bill is an act to support public transportation infrastructure in York and Cumberland counties. It is a concept draft. However, the sponsor did provide a proposed amendment that's represented on the second page of my bill analysis. However, I did hear this morning that there may be an update from the sponsor in Maine DOT, and I don't know if maybe you would like to hear from them before I go through the summary of the sponsor's amendment.
Yes, I would. Yes. So we'll take whomever is there from DOT. I think that would be very helpful to the committee.
I've got both Megan and Nina, but
Okay, you guys can decide who's coming on.
Nina, I think, is the one.
Ms. Fisher?
I just hit attend, so it's going to take a second. Here she comes.
Welcome, Ms. Fisher, Deputy Commissioner. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Senator. It's my pleasure to be here.
Did you hear Sam when he was talking?
I did. And
So would you explain it to us, please?
I'm going to ask if Darlene could bring in Megan. It was Megan who kind of had a meeting on this one, and I thank you for deferring to me on this. They did have a meeting, I believe, on Monday with the bill's sponsor, and we kind of explained where we were with public transit in that area and what we were working on, and I think that satisfied a lot of the sponsor's questions and her levels of interest. Megan can expand on it now that she's crossed over from the divide and is here with us.
This is
Sorry
the problem
for
of not being in the same room with you, Nina.
Nice pass, Ms. Fisher. Nice pass. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Senator. Megan Russo from Maine DOT. So myself and our chief engineer, Joyce Taylor, who you all have seen earlier today, and Steve Landry met with the sponsor and a couple other stakeholders to discuss the bill and a potential path forward. We kind of, through that meeting, heard what they wanted to accomplish, what they wanted us, all of us to discuss and look into. So the resolve that we all determined was that the committee could vote, if you choose to do so, vote ought not to pass on the bill, send us a letter requesting that we host stakeholder meetings, several of them, to discuss transit issues in York and Cumberland counties. Also work into that discussions about climate initiatives, and then report back to the committee at some point next session.
Wow, very good. Questions of Ms. Russo? Wow, well done. And obviously the department's on board with that, and
yes,
the sponsor is, and since this is a concept draft, I think that's really a good conclusion. Questions from the committee? Anybody? Motion's in order. Representative Bruce White,
I'll move that, ought not to pass.
motion's made ought not to pass. Is there a second?
Second, but that's with a letter, correct?
That's right. The
Okay.
motion, it ought not to pass with the understanding the committee will send a letter.
Correct.
Yeah. Further discussion of the motion? Seeing none, Darlene, it's yours.
Senator Diamond,
Yes.
Representative Danny Matton,
Yes.
Senator Farren,
Yes.
Representative Perkins,
Yes.
Representative Perry,
Yes.
Representative Williams,
Yes.
Representative Dustin White, absent. Senator Chipman. Nope, he's gone. Representative Bryant,
Yes.
Representative Bruce White,
Yes.
Representative Tom Matton,
Yes.
Representative O'Connell,
Yes.
and Representative Seaver is absent. 10 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, 3 absent.
Motion ought not to pass prevails 10-0. We'll close the work session on LD 1400. Excuse me, on 11/22. No, what?
458.
58. I need one more of those. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll now go to LD 1400. An act to protect towing operators providing emergency assistance by allowing the use of a flashing red light. And it's presented by Representative Gear of Kennebunkport. Sam.
All right. As it suggests, this bill authorizes wreckers to use a flashing red auxiliary light in conjunction with an amber light as provided in current law while servicing, freeing, loading, unloading, or towing a vehicle on a public way or in a place where public traffic may reasonably be anticipated. I provided for the committee the current law governing the use of emergency and auxiliary lights, sirens, and privileges within the bill analysis. And I also excerpted for you the part on red lights and the part on wreckers. And I want to note that I had heard from the sponsor of the bill prior to today's work session, and she may have a proposed amendment. So I would defer to the sponsor to present that.
Thank you. Before we ask questions of Sam, is the sponsor with us?
I believe they are. Yep, they are. Hold on.
Yes. Commissioner Gear, Representative Gear, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, welcome. You had an
Thank you.
amendment. You're thinking of an amendment? Are you proposing an amendment?
We are indeed. I am indeed. And I would, and is Sam, is this something that's been distributed to the committee or that could be, if it's not?
Sam, you're on mute.
Apologies. I have not yet distributed it, but I can pull it up on my screen for everybody to see.
That would be helpful. Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And yeah, so thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks to the committee. After the public hearing and hearing the feedback about the concern about the possibility that the wreckers would use the red flashing light while driving, we did work with Sam with the team on an amendment, and we'll see that coming up on your screen. And this would really address the times at which the flashing red light could be used. So the amendment reads, a flashing red auxiliary light on a wrecker equipped in accordance with the subparagraph may only be used when A, the operator is assisting another vehicle operator or loading a vehicle onto the wrecker, and B, the wrecker is pulled to the side of or off a public way and has halted in a location where it can safely remain stationary. So this really does address the core intent of the bill to improve safety for wrecker drivers when they are on the side of the road assisting a driver and loading the vehicle, and not when they are then driving to unload or on the way to a situation.
Excellent.
And available for any questions. I also believe Mr. Wadley, for technical issues, is with us as well.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. If you hold with us just a second, we're going to see if the committee has any questions of you, and then we'll go to some others. Any questions of Representative Gear from anybody on the committee at the moment? Hang with us, there may be some. So thank you for that proposed. Lieutenant Scott, could you weigh in on this, please? I know you didn't provide testimony, at least I don't have it, but I do know, remember we had discussions with you regarding your thoughts of when the tow truck is not in motion, whether or not that was something that would be in terms of the Department of Public Safety, would that be?
Yes, Senator Diamond, after the hearing, I brought that subject back up to my leadership, knowing that might be asked if it was just stationary, and they still felt the same, that we would be opposing any red lights on wreckers because we don't want the confusion out there between an emergency vehicle and a tow truck. And we feel like when 2054 subsection 9 was changed a few years ago to add them into that same class to force vehicles to go around them and to pass in a non-adjacent lane or a reasonable speed, that it offered them at least that same level of protection as the other vehicles. But we just didn't want the confusion that it looks like a emergency vehicle on the side of the road when it's a tow truck.
Thank you for that. Questions of the committee of Lieutenant Scott? Yes, Representative Danny Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the amendment that's being proposed by the sponsor, I believe I'd heard that she'd work with some group. Are you now saying, Lieutenant Scott, that you're not in favor of the proposed amendment?
Yes, Representative Martin, that's correct. We did not work with them on the bill, and I'm not sure who helped with the amendment, but it wouldn't change our position.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Representative O'Connell.
Lieutenant Scott, I don't want to go against what you said, but just this morning, I'm working and we had flaggers, we had signs, we had road cones, all the lights on all the trucks on. And by the time they got to my truck, I had to hang on to the side of the truck so I wouldn't get run over. And I face that every single day. And when I'm working, if I get a carpool accident and there's a wrecker there, I would appreciate to have that other light. I mean, even the fire department and police department there, I would think would appreciate to have that other light to bring the situation to attention of the drivers who still think it's Speedway 95 when they're going by with all the emergency going on. It's just what I've dealt with the past 34 years. It's just, again, I don't want to go against what you guys said, but it's just my life every day. That's my take on it.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Representative Bruce White.
Yes, thank you. It sounded like a pretty reasonable amendment. I was just trying to figure out where did that come from, if the sponsor could let us know who you worked with on getting that compromise, so to speak.
Good question, actually. Representative Gear, do you tell us who?
Thank you. Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so it was basically taking the feedback that we heard during the public hearing from the committee. And when I didn't mean to be confusing, working with the analyst team with transportation, that's where the amendment came from, and working with Mr. Wadley as well, who was the bringer of the bill.
Thank you for that. Representative Perkins.
Muted.
Representative Perkins. With us still?
Hey, I have a question, Mr. Diamond, Senator Diamond.
Yeah.
Not questioning this so much. I don't think all the lights in the world are going to stop these people from running into the back of cruisers or almost hitting Representative O'Connor. I've been out there for a number of years, like 34 years as a police officer. And I know many police officers, fellow friends of mine, have actually been hit when they have the blue lights on, and everyone's supposed to be aware of the blue lights. So I don't think any type of light that would help. I think that, if we want to allow our fire department to put a lit arrow sign on, so they could take and flash yellow arrows to go over, because yellow is warning. I don't think this would be a good idea to have the fire department, a wrecker service we have a red light. We as normal drivers, and I teach my driver's ed kids now, that red and blue are emergency vehicles. That's why rescue has, their rescue vehicles have red and blue. The minute you do that, now they're gonna think it's a rescue vehicle, it's a fire, it's a fire truck or something like that. I don't think it's a good idea. I think we gotta come up with a better way to indicate, you gotta go to the left, or you go to the right. We put in a law years ago and said that the pullover law, and some people don't even know what that is and have no clue at all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Other questions from the committee? Representative Wayne Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I wanted to kind of echo what Representative Perkins said, and and I've been on the road doing stuff for a long time, and I think Representative Perkins is right. No matter how many lights you put on, you're going to have stupid drivers, and I don't think we should confuse the wreckers with rescues and fire trucks. And the more we proliferate the lights, it's just going to get to the point where they don't mean anything. So I think it's, and I agree with Lieutenant Scott. I think this is not a good idea at this time. So I will make a motion ought not to pass.
Motion is made, ought not to pass. Is there a second?
I'll second that, sir.
Thank you. Discussion. I have a question, Representative O'Connell. I mean, you live this every day. You actually might have changed my mind on this. I know you're out there on the road every day, and you're saying, so make sure I'm sure that you think the red light on a parked truck of this tow truck would make a difference, would add safety measure to those of you who are out there in and around it?
Personally, I think it would. And as far as calling an emergency vehicle, when I'm at a carpool accident and you've got thousands of people out of power, those thousands of people out of power are going to say it's an emergency. And we can't do anything until that damaged vehicle gets towed out of the way. There's a lot going on. And I think more that can bring a reference to that guy on that tow truck doing what he's got to do to save him, to protect him. And it also protects everybody else on the scene too. I think it's a fine idea for him to have a red light on scene only.
Thank you again for that. Representative Perkins.
Just one thing, sir, just a question. How many wreckers have been hit this year? Do we have any idea of that? The young lady who sponsored the bill, do we know how many wreckers have been hit this year? Because to believe it or not, I actually drove wrecker a number of years ago. And usually when I was getting ready to tow a vehicle out of the ditch, we already had a police unit there supporting us. Just an idea.
A good question. Representative Gear, do you have any data on that, on how many?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have the data on from Maine on that particular statistic. Again, Mr. Wadley might be here from the Tow Truck Drivers Union, who might be able to have more of the specific data.
Thank you for that. We might ask him that in a minute. Representative Wayne Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just another comment as somebody that this is my 5th term on here. I guarantee if this bill passes this year, there will be a bill next year to put red lights on CMP trucks or to put red lights on whatever. We're going to get to a point where they don't mean anything. And I think that's a real problem.
Thank you, Representative Perry. Is Mr. Wadley with us, Darlene?
Yes, yeah, I can promote him.
Just want to ask if he has a answer to that question that was raised.
No, he's in the screen.
Wadley, can you hear us?
I can. Hang on just a second. I'll have video.
There he is.
There you go. There was a question about how many tow trucks have been hit, damaged, or hit, leave it at that, in the last period of time that you might have some data on.
Yeah, I don't have the Maine stats. The head of TRAM, which is the Towing Recovery Association of Maine, he's also on this. His name's Dana Layton. He might have that. I do have the national stats, and it's 15 times more deadly than any other job out there when you look at that compared to other ones. That's an OSHA study. And it's also one driver dies every 6 days in the United States, a tow truck driver, by being hit on the side of the road. And I'm a little disappointed in Representative Perkins, because originally when I talked to him, he was going to co-sponsor this, so I'm surprised at the change in position.
Well, that happens. Committee members can do that, and they're not to be questioned.
No, I
Minds
understand.
change. We all change our minds from time to time, and so Representative Perkins is no different than everybody else. So that's, yep. Questions from the committee? Representative Danny Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, this was one of those bills here that I had a question mark on here because I could see both sides of the issue. But my good friend from Brewer, Representative O'Connell, I believe just convinced me, and I will not be supporting the pending motion. And if I'm in the minority, I'll present a minority report that ought to pass as amended.
Thank you for that. Senator Farren.
Yeah, I just want to throw my 2 cents in before we move to the vote. Is that I respect Representative O'Connell very, very much. He's a dear friend of mine, and I know how passionate he is about his work because we talk about it quite a bit. And I have no doubt at all that that's the way he feels about this. I also spent 17 years on the fire department and retired as a captain from the local fire department. And I can tell you from an on-scene standpoint, that sometimes more lights, and I'm talking about while you're working, trying to move those things around, red lights can be distracting to the emergency workers doing the stuff that they're doing. You can get too overcome with some of those things. So I think we have lights on the tow trucks. I think you have to wait to make the scene safe. There's procedures that go along with that, waiting for law enforcement to show up. So even in the rural areas and things of that nature. So I think we can dilute the situation and make it even more confusing for some of the people on the scene. So while I respect what the tow truck drivers do, I got folks in my district, Robbins and Sons, and some of the other folks that do these things that I can't just support this measure right now and go against. We listen to what public safety has to say, and I try to stay pretty consistent with the advice and guidance that they give us. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Farren. Representative Bryant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And sorry, I got cut off there and got back in, so I'm pleased to be back with you. I'll be supporting Representative O'Connell and Representative Martin on this particular motion. I think we had a good discussion, but that's where I am at this time.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Representative Bryant. Other questions, comments? This is one of those bills where all of a sudden blue turns to black or whatever. And I think for me, Representative O'Connell he changed my mind. No question. He's out there on the road all the time. So, and I expect obviously it's going to be a divided report, but that's okay. We're still doing pretty good otherwise. So I guess we ready for the vote? The motion. Motion is ought not to pass.
Senator Diamond.
No.
Representative Martin.
No.
Senator Farren.
Yes.
Representative Perkins.
Yes.
Representative Perry.
Yes.
Representative Williams.
No.
Representative Dustin White is absent. Senator Chipman, absent. Representative Bryant.
No.
Representative Bruce White.
No.
Representative Tom Martin.
Yes.
Representative O'Connell.
No.
And Representative Seaver is absent. So there's 4 in favor of the motion and 6 oppose. And I'm assuming it's ought to pass as amended? For
The motion was ought not to pass, and the motion failed for a vote of 4 to 6, as I understand you just telling us, Darlene. So
yep.
Then the minority report, the motion would be then ought not to pass failed. Those who voted ought not to pass will probably want a minority report ought not to pass. Representative Danny Martin, what will you recommend for the majority report?
Well, the majority report, Mr. Chair, is ought to pass as amended.
Yep, okay. Ought to pass as amended is the majority report. Ought not to pass is a minority report. However, we still have 3 people to vote. So understand that could change by the time it gets back to us. close the public work session on LD 1400. We'll now open up the work session on LD 1271, an act to improve access to the automobile insurance and employment by clarifying driving records, presented by Representative Arata of New Gloucester. Sam.
Thank you, Senator Diamond. So this bill requires the Secretary of State to change the driving record of a holder of a provisional license that is suspended for a motor vehicle violation from indicating the suspension of the license to indicating the motor vehicle violation committed that caused the suspension once the provisional license holder receives a permanent unrestricted license or the provisional license is restored. I provided for the committee under the current law section of my bill analysis links and descriptions of, I think, all of the different license types we have in Title 29A. This bill refers to the provisional license, but we also have things such as an intermediate license issued to a person under 18 years of age and a special restricted license to a person who is 15 years of age and who successfully completed a driver's education course and passed an examination. So we have a number of other kind of like youth and restricted license types that I wanted to make the committee aware of that aren't currently addressed in the bill. And then I have some technical issues and some notes for the bill about the bill. But before I go forward, I heard there might have been some discussions with the sponsor that the sponsor might want to speak to. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. I do want to note the technical issues for the committee if they're still relevant, but I just wanted to make sure I don't kind of get ahead of maybe if there are changes or something. So I'm gonna.
Sam, I was under the impression there was some type of an agreement on this with the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. Was I mistaken on that?
I'm just not aware of what it is. I know the sponsor's here and maybe she can speak to it.
All right, thank you. Welcome, Representative Arata. Thank you for being with us. Could you clarify that? I mean, I was under the impression there was some kind of an agreement with a different approach here. Could you have knowledge of that?
Yes, thank you, Senator Diamond. I've spoke with the Secretary of State and they've agreed to study the issue and maybe look at what other states do and how to clarify driving records. And I mean, having looked at my own son's driving record, I can see where somebody, you know, looking at it quickly would think there were 2 violations when there was really 1 speeding violation. And I know that can be a problem in other states, especially where we have background checks and things like that that are automated. And, you know, so there are computer algorithms and things to consider. My intention was never to get rid of the license suspension, but merely to make sure that the record accurately reflects the violation. So what we've agreed to is ought not to pass, but with a letter from the committee asking the Secretary of State's office to do a study, to investigate this and see if we can improve things. What I would like would be also to have the letter, to have them report back to you in the next session. Now, am I correct that a committee can sponsor a bill at any time?
Well, we always have an omnibus bill hanging around us, which we could include this in if we wanted to. But we also could amend another bill that's coming up. We have several options to do all that.
Right. So if the letter that they write indicates that legislation is needed to correct this problem, then the committee could make that happen without my bill cluttering up the system.
We can make that happen.
Yeah.
If nothing else, we just go to the council and get it. I mean, there's several options for the committee to consider. And so the answer to that is yes.
Right. I mean, I think the consensus, I mean, the feeling I was getting back from the committee was that you agree this is an issue, but how do we handle it? We're not quite sure how to handle it. So more information is definitely needed.
Thank you. I think we'll ask Linda Grant, who's from the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, to chime in. Linda, could you just give us the perspective of what you have here and how that coordinates with what we just heard?
Sure. I mean, we had some great conversation, and, you know, I think there is confusion within driving records. I think our main driving records are pretty straightforward and outline convictions and what results from those convictions, which could ultimately be a suspension, but we don't know what other states' records may look like. A lot of this, I think we felt, was some third party, you know, input where they're taking our data, but they could be dumping it into something that may be less than, you know, straightforward as far as the information presented. So, you know, we could certainly agreed based on our conversations to take a look and study this and see if there's some ways to, I'd like to think we could require the users of our data to do something, but I mean, I think certainly we can and look at our presentation and maybe make adjustments to how it's presented.
Thank you. And you wouldn't mind reporting back to us, or we would consider in that letter that, which the committee will look at before it goes out to you, but we would ask you to report back to us next year.
Yes, I mean, I think we talked about having a late summer or summer conversation and bringing in some stakeholders to have that conversation. So certainly that's time to have that discussion.
Excellent. Representative Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I think this is a great conclusion to this. I thought there was some issues here, and I don't want to hamper, you know, new young workers, new young people going out in the workforce and making it look like they've got something way worse on their record than they do. So I think this is a very good conclusion, and I will make a motion ought not to pass with the letter and the report back to the committee.
Thank you. A motion ought not to pass with the understanding that we will send a letter to Bureau of Motor Vehicles asking them to review this and report back to the committee next year. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Thank you. Discussion. Representative Danny Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I wonder if we could ask Ms. Grant to work with our analyst, Sam, in drafting the letter, so there'll be consensus on the letter when it's reported back to us. That'd be okay?
That's fine. Sam, you're okay? You'll hear that request?
Got it.
Good. Thank you very much. Further discussion? Seeing now, the motion is ought not to pass with the understanding the committee will send a letter which will be reviewed by the committee before it goes out to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles and the Secretary of State's office, asking them to review this, study it, and report back to this committee next year with whatever their findings may be. Darlene?
Senator Diamond.
Yes.
Representative Martin.
Yes.
Senator Farren.
Yes.
Representative Perkins.
Yes.
Representative Perry.
Yes.
Representative Williams.
Yes.
Representative Dustin White, absent. Senator Chipman, absent. Representative Bryant.
Yes.
Representative Bruce White.
Yes.
Representative Tom Martin.
Yes.
Representative O'Connell.
Yes.
And Representative Seaver is absent. 10 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
Motion ought not to pass with the understanding of the letter prevails at 10-0. Thank you very much. We'll close the work session on that and appreciate your work with us, Representative Verada. That was, I think it's going to come up with some good improvements, which appreciate you working with the Department of Bureau of Motor Vehicles. Okay, we'll now open up the work session on LD 1372. An act to collect data to assess the need and plan for noise abatement by the Maine Turnpike Authority, presented by Representative Babbage of Kennebunk. Sam.
Okay, so this bill requires the Turnpike Authority to install devices to collect data measuring noise levels along routes managed by the authority, sets specific criteria for the data that must be collected, and requires the authority to report this data to the Joint Standing Committee on Transportation no later than December 1st, 2022. This bill also requires the authority to submit to this committee a plan to develop a noise abatement program in accordance with the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration regulations, and set specific criteria for the plan developed by the authority. I have provided on my bill analysis for the committee some links to the Federal Highway Administration's website on noise abatement. both the general website, some specific type 2 program examples, and the federal noise abatement rules. I've also provided the Turnpike Authority and the Maine DOT's noise policy links on here, and I believe they're similar, if not almost identical. And then some notes for the committee. There are a few technical issues with this bill, and the first is there are some unclear terms. The first is domicile units. I don't really know what this means in this context. I assumed it's a measure of density of residences, but I don't know how it's calculated, and it's not used anywhere else in our statutes. So if the committee moves forward, that should be clarified, as well as the term public health care facility, whether that's meant to refer just to hospitals or also to like nursing homes, urgent care facilities, and whether these facilities are all public or if some are privately owned. It's also not a term we have in statute. And the same question as to types of questions as to what public rest area means. And then in subsection 2 of the bill, I think this was just like a omission. It should probably read data collected at various distances up to 15,000 feet of the roadway on the turnpike. It just says, currently it just says up to 15,000 feet and
I
doesn't
think
give
you
a
mean
reference.
1,500 feet, Sam. You should-
Oh, sorry, you're right, 1,500 feet. My bad, my bad.
Good
Good
save.
catch. 1,500 feet. And then just some notes on like when I read subsection 3 in the bill, that the plan developed by the authority must include, but is not limited to, indicated noise thresholds along the turnpike based on data collected pursuant to Maine Revised Statutes, Title 23, Section 1984, and proposed legislation to establish criteria by major substantive rules for assessing the reasonableness and feasibility of noise abatement measures. I just wanted to make clear for the committee that this section is directing the authority to create a proposal for legislation that would then require them to adopt major substantive rules. So I felt like that needed to be maybe spelled out because when I first read it, I didn't quite understand. So anyways, that's what I have for the committee. And if there are any questions for me.
Thank you very much, Sam. Are there questions of Sam before we ask the Turnpike to come in and answer a couple of questions that have been floating around here? Any questions of Sam right now? If not, do we have Peter Mills or maybe Aaron Courtney?
Peter's on its way in.
Mr. Director?
No, it's going to take him a minute.
Okay.
I'm here.
There he is.
The Director, how are you this afternoon?
I've been listening to your whole afternoon and
Thank you.
you've been very patient on many bills, I see.
Well, we're a very patient group. Thank you for being with us on this bill. One of the questions that came up when we first heard the bill was the fiscal note, what the cost might be for this particular bill. Could you enlighten us and remind us of anything else that goes with this that the committee may need to be reminded of regarding the impact of this bill?
It probably would not be a fiscal note for the legislature because we're supported by tolls.
Right, no, I know, but with the cost.
We have done noise studies when we've seen areas adjacent to the turnpike that we thought were highly problematical. And we did one about 11 years ago covering 2,000 feet, linear feet on both sides of the turnpike in a metropolitan area. And I took a quick count, approximately 75 or 80 sensors. We looked at sound pressures within about 500 feet either side of the edge of the highway. And to do 2,000 feet of highway like that, it cost us $66,000 to do a study that we thought was enough to tell us or to advise us as to what the sound issues were in that neighborhood, in that area. And the bill is problematical because there are clearly, most of the turnpike runs through rural areas still, even 75 years after having built it. So there are so many regions you would never think about doing a noise. You wouldn't even want to invest, anything in doing a study because there's no impacts. It's I don't know what to say except that it would be to try to put sensors out within 1,500 feet of either side of the roadway for the whole 109 miles plus the Falmouth spur would be, and with what density would be required. There's so many uncertainties about it that we wouldn't know how to follow the language that's in section 4 of the bill. It doesn't give us enough guidance to understand what we would be trying to do. To study noise on every mile of the highway within even a few hundred feet, let alone 1,500 feet from the highway, would be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And would not be advisable because there are so many sections of the road where you would say, well, we don't need to do a study here. In fact, most of the road, when you drive, if you go out driving on the turnpike, just look to your left and right and say, well, do you think there's a noise problem out here? You will find that 90% of the mileage, I suspect, you would say, no, hardly anybody's affected. And in many cases, the neighbors who are there are, in some cases, very high value industrial and commercial complexes that are very well suited to the environment of being next to a highway like ours. So I'm sorry to ramble in response to your very clear question, but I don't have a clear answer. And I don't know how to read the draft that we have in front of us to figure out what we would be doing if it were passed.
No, that was helpful, Peter. Thank you. I think the past efforts you've made to do these type of things, and that was helpful. Yes, Representative Danny Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Director Mills, for being with us this afternoon. If the committee were to move forward with an ought not to pass report and send you a letter asking MTA and your folks, your staff, to come up with cost estimates were we to pass this bill, how long would it take you to come up with an estimated cost?
We couldn't, for the reasons I've just explained. I don't have clarification within the language of the bill that would enable me or my engineering staff to figure out what they would be doing in response to the language. I don't know how to say it plainly enough. It is so lacking in clarity that we wouldn't know how to begin.
All right, so I understand. The answer is there's no way you could come up with an estimate.
I honestly don't think so.
All right, thank you.
I can tell you, that's why I started by saying, well, we've done noise studies. We did one that I'm very familiar with that did cost us $67,000 to study 2,000 feet of the main line in an area where there was, and it's an area, I got to tell you, it's an area I'm still very concerned about. And I think sometime within my lifetime, I think we will be addressing the issues out there.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Representative Martin, for that. Representative Wayne Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Mills, isn't the big problem that the highway's been there since 1941 or a big chunk of it, and we've widened it 15 years ago or whatever the date was, and you've got new developments moving in that all of a sudden the noise is a problem. The highway was there first, and I know you've put wall up down through Bedford Saco area. There's a new development there, I think off 112, I think it is. But
the developer put that up.
What's that?
The developer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because that was a field, and I was wondering if you guys had to do it. And I was thinking that there was one house there before. and they're putting up 40 houses or whatever. But I just think this is, like you mentioned, so much of the turnpike goes through woods and industrial and everything else. And to do a noise study just doesn't seem to have a real, doesn't seem to make sense to me. And whenever you have noise issues in a certain area, because I know I had one, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that. And you guys went out and looked and planted some trees and stuff and did some odds and ends stuff to try to help the people, you know, that were there. You do that regularly, don't you, when there's certain issues in certain areas, and try to mitigate as best you can?
Yes, just to give you, yes, I'm very familiar with the homeowner that you put me in touch with. I went out and saw him, and we did, we had some locations where we thought some plantings would help, and he had done some as well. And we've got other places. The Falmouth Spur is a place where we've received some inquiries and some concerns, and we've done a lot of plantings out there. The trees help. They help because they at least reduce the visibility, and in some cases attenuate the noise a little. I got to be candid with you. If you want to kill sound, if you want to reduce sound, you pretty much have to do what they did in I-290 when they built the I-295 wall. 3,000 feet long. It varies between 10 and 12 feet high. It's a $7 million wall. And it is a what do you want to say? It's so solid that sound doesn't, you know, it hits it and bounces off, if you want to put it that way. Whereas trees, oftentimes it makes it through. So, I mean, it's a very, very difficult problem. I read about this in national literature a lot, but sound control for highways and for airports is a constant problem. The Turnpike headquarters, by the way, is built directly, almost directly under the approach zone for one of the major runways for the Portland Jetport. I live under it all the time. And my building, my predecessor who had this building built, made it with the windows and the structure of the building is such that I never hear it. And then when I step outdoors to go home at night, the first flight that goes over shocks the hell out of me because I haven't been listening to it. And I get it when I get outdoors, and it is very, very loud. It's just that the building is suited to it. And that is an accommodation that many, many businesses have made along Riverside Avenue, for example, in Portland. If you drive along there, most of those businesses and structures are suitable for being fairly close to the turnpike, and they were built that way. So there are lots of accommodations that can be made, but, you know, short of putting a big, huge masonry barrier along both sides of the turnpike, it's very hard to develop a single solution. That would
Mr. Chair. And also, and maybe this isn't a question, maybe this is more of a general statement. I'm wondering if this is also going to be an issue for the Downeaster and the trains going by and stuff like that. We always talk about the car noise, but are we going to have more and more train noise that might need to be mitigated? So this could be a real slippery slope.
Yep.
We like to work with our town. We have 24 towns that we pass through, and we go out and meet with them. I think almost all of them every year. And one of the things that's on the agenda every year is economic development, land planning and land development in areas that are nearby the turnpike. And this is one of the items that's on the agenda. We have to work with our towns and help them understand, you know, what uses are suitable for the real estate that's adjacent to the highway and which uses are going to be adversely affected.
We appreciate that too. Senator Farren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Director Mills. Always good to see you. Hey, based upon all this and great feedback and discussion, I just think at this point that this bill doesn't have a lot of traction, and I understand the concerns, but I think of all the issues raised, and I know Representative Martin we talked about, trying to find a study or whatever, but I think the director answered that question very distinctly for us, and I'm going to make a motion of ought not to pass.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, ought not to pass. Discussion on the motion.
Second.
Yep, we're all seconded. Discussion on the motion. Representative Bryant.
My apologies. I just wanted to comment on the halo over Senator Farron's head when he made that motion. I appreciate it.
Thank you for that. Other comments, other questions on the motion ought not to pass? Seeing none, Darlene, it's up to you.
Senator Diamond,
Yes.
Representative Danny Matton,
Yes.
Senator Farren,
Yes.
Representative Perkins,
Yes.
Representative Perry,
Yes.
Representative Williams,
Yes.
Representative Dustin White is absent, Senator Chipman absent, Representative Bryant,
Yes.
Representative Bruce White,
Yes.
Representative Tom Matton,
Yes.
Representative O'Connell,
Yes, and Senator Farren has had that halo ever since I've known him.
and Representative Seaver is absent. So it's 10 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. 3
Motion
absent.
not to pass is 10-0, and it does prevail. We'll close the work session on LD 1372 and open up the work session on LD 1359, an act to change driver's license requirements regarding sleep apnea. Sam.
Senator Diamond. So I provided the bill analysis for 1359 and 1398 together because the language of the bills is identical.
That's fine.
Yeah, these bills prohibit the Secretary of State from refusing to issue, refusing to renew, or suspending a Class C driver's license for the medical reason of obstructive sleep apnea, including because the applicant or holder is non-responsive or non-adherent to sleep apnea therapy, if the applicant or holder does not have a history of falling asleep while driving, a recorded accident or a near miss caused by excessive drowsiness, or a traffic violation caused by excessive drowsiness. I provided in the bill analysis a link to the BMV rules, the relevant rules, and I also provided to the committee some information provided by the department regarding this bill or these bills. And I just wanted to note a couple technical issues and other issues that came up when I was reviewing the language as drafted. So the first thing I noticed is there was actually what appeared to be a typo in or not a typo, but just a lack of clarity in the first paragraph of the bill. And I provided the committee just a quick technical change that I think would make it a little more clear. I noted that the terms excessive drowsiness, or the term excessive drowsiness is also unclear. And if the committee wants to move forward, you may want to just help define the parameters of this a little better, or direct the department to define the parameters of this a little better, because it's not clear like who it is who currently makes this determination and how that's documented. And then some other issues from the bill on the terms non-responsive or non-adherent. It's unclear who determines whether the person is non-responsive or non-adherent to sleep apnea therapy, and whether there are like medical records that should be submitted to BMV or how that happens. And then also the same is true for this history of falling asleep while driving. It's unclear from the bill who makes this determination, how often that must have happened, and how that's documented. So those are all things, if you're going to move forward, just to consider clarifying or directing the department to clarify. So that's all I have for now.
Thank you, Sam. Are there questions from the committee? Sam? Is there any? I know that the Medical Advisory Board, which was created with great foresight years and years ago, and it really is comprised of 8 specialists, I believe, medical people. And I know that they have some concerns, and I wonder if there's somebody here from the Secretary of State, Bureau of Motor Vehicle, that might explain the concerns. Anybody with us? Linda? Brand?
Linda's here and I'm pulling in the other 2 people.
Okay. Linda, is this something you would respond to, or would you want somebody else
Yeah, I mean, I think if definitely our medical review coordinator is on this, and it looks like she's coming in now. We did have our pulmonologist on originally. I don't know if he was able to kind of stand by on this, Dr. Keeney, and it looks like he is. So I would defer your questions or allow them to speak. Thanks.
I'm going to ask Dr. Keeney to start with because I did receive I guess it's an email from the secretary about his concerns, but I'd like to have you ask you directly, Dr. Keeney, about your reaction to this legislation.
Thank you, Senator Diamond. I cut out there for a second, but yeah, so I'm a pulmonary critical care physician. I've been on the medical advisory board since 2017. And certainly as a practicing pulmonologist, I can really appreciate the struggles sometimes patients go through to deal with the diagnosis of sleep apnea and the treatment for sleep apnea. But at the same time, I think there's a public safety balance that needs to be made that the rules that we've developed and continue to revise within the medical advisory board are important to make that balance. And certainly, I've had concerns, prior to joining the MAB, as well as since joining it, about the restrictiveness and the rigidity of the current sleep apnea rules. We've been in the process of revising those rules, and not to necessarily make excuses, but certainly the last year with COVID-19 has kind of slowed down that process, which we were hoping to finish in 2020. But we've been actively working on that, have a subgroup that I think will hopefully improve the experience that patients or citizens have with the process of going through this diagnosis and treating this diagnosis. I would also say, there's multiple other diagnoses that are treated with by the MAB and addressed by the MAB, and I would hope not to pull out one diagnosis from the whole process. But.
So is it fair to say, Doctor, that you and the board members are not in support of this legislation? And if that is true, my question is, how does this impact individual physicians in this process?
So, yes, I would say it's correct that the MAB is not in favor of this process. So, reading the bill, it makes it hard to determine who does make the determination that a patient shouldn't drive or a citizen shouldn't get their license. Also, it seems to suggest that the provider would be the one to necessarily pull the license, which we do on occasion when we have concerns, but that's very rare. I would hate to, these rules already put some barriers between a patient and their provider, but by removing the rules, you would either leave it up to the providers to determine, which could certainly make some providers uncomfortable, and both on either pulling a license if they have concerns, or even, from a maybe even from a malpractice perspective of treating these patients and then running the risk of, if you don't recognize or if you have no knowledge that a patient's had driving difficulties, that there could be issues if there are accidents or in the future. So I don't know if that answers the question. But.
Yeah, I think it does. Are there questions from the committee of the doctor at the moment? Hang with us, please, because we might have some questions. Senator Farren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Doctor, for being here. You talked about the process, and I think we've supported that, and we see some bills in the past that have kind of looked to make exceptions to how this works. Do you know, I remember in the bill testimony when the bill sponsor brought this forward, they talked about specifically with a constituent that moved from New Hampshire, where I believe that they did have the opportunity to drive, and the difference here. you know the difference in the procedures that go along with that in the little, from your standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably defer. I see Thea Fickett online here, but there really is a lot of variability both in the state and, this comes up a fair amount with, DOT and over the road truckers. There's a fair amount of variability between states, and that is a concern. So I don't know if Thea could answer that question a little bit more succinctly than I can.
Well, we can go to her for sure, but I want to make sure, Senator Farren.
This whole board process, Mr. Chair, are you familiar? Do you know when this started?
Yes, I do know when it started. And by the way, it was started never with the intent of having doctors actually be responsible to pull someone's license. That was not part of the whole ball game. So yes.
For those that are listening in, that would be our own former Secretary of State, Chairman Bill Diamond, just so folks know.
Thank you for that, Senator. Representative Perry, you had a question, and then we'll go to Thea Fickett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have Senator Diamond to blame for all this. Oh, no. Dr. Keenan, can you explain, because you mentioned when you started off here about you're looking at changes on how this all works. And I don't know if you would be the best one, or Ms. Grant or Thea, to explain exactly the process that this gentleman moved to New Hampshire. How did Maine know that he had sleep apnea and they were pulling their license? And also kind of a follow-up with that was, seems on some of the testimony, and you would know this, I'm guessing, if somebody has sleep apnea, does that automatically mean they're a danger to drive, or do they have maybe no symptoms? Can you explain that a little bit?
I certainly can, and I think it goes to Mr. Pror's comment earlier about, how do you assess sleepiness? And this gets a little, this is a problem, in general with sleep medicine, is that we have a lot of subjective tools to determine sleepiness. We have a few objective testing that can be done, but a lot of it is subjective, self-reported. And that is all part of our current FAP, where we ask providers to assess sleepiness based on a survey. And then, the severity of the patient's sleep apnea determines whether they need treatment or not. So not everyone with sleep apnea needs to be treated. Really, the more severe the sleep apnea, the understanding is the more likelihood that they could be impaired. But it is a difficult, it's difficult to differentiate in these patients, who is truly sleepy. Now, going to your comment about how we find out someone coming from New Hampshire to Maine has sleep apnea, and I'm sure the folks from the DMV can state this a little bit more clear than I can, but it is it's a question on the licensee process to divulge whether you have a medical condition that could impair your ability to drive, and sleep apnea is one of those. So it is it's self-divulged process, much like my daughter's a type 1 diabetic. When she got her license last year, she had to say she was type 1 diabetic and has to go through a similar process where she has to get her endocrinologist to sign off on her that she's well controlled and doesn't have issues.
Thank you. Representative Perry, you all set with that?
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
Could we ask Thea Fickett to come aboard briefly, just in case committee might have any questions of Thea?
Hi, thank you. I don't know why, but for some reason my video is not functioning at this point in time.
Okay, well, we can hear you well, so that's a good.
Okay, Good, thank you. So my understanding is that the first question was just a brief overview of the process and how the process works with regards to medical review. Is that correct?
Yeah, we had somewhat of an answer to that. But you want to add to that?
So the process is that we find out that people have conditions in a variety of ways. The most common way that we find out is that the driver does disclose it when they come to apply for a license or a permit. We also find out, because clinicians do at times report to us, especially if they have concerns. We also find out because sometimes law enforcement, we get adverse reports of driving, or we're reviewing a record because of 3 accidents or something like that. So we do find out in a variety of ways that a person has a condition. When we find out that they have a condition, what we do is require that they take a form to their doctor. It's called the driver medical evaluation form. And the doctor, using our functional ability profile rules, which defines what degree of risk to driving a condition may pose, then they complete the form and send it back into us. So we aren't looking for a lot of medical information, but we have a 2-page form basically that we want filled out in a manner that's consistent with our rules. And just for example, with sleep apnea, if a person has a history of sleep apnea and it's been corrected, recovered, then let's say because they've had a surgical procedure or they've lost weight or something like that, they can be cleared and we don't follow them anymore. But if they continue to have sleep apnea that fits within our parameters, then we ask the doctor to indicate to us, based on what's called an apnea-hypopnea score, which is their problem breathing episodes, and their sleepiness, whether they fit into a mild risk for driving, a moderate risk for driving, or severe risk for driving. And if they fall into the mild, we don't require that they have treatment. We do require that they submit a new updated report from their physician again in 3 years. If they have a moderate risk based on our criteria, then we require that they submit a new report to us every year. And in that category, a person is required to have treatment. So in the first category, they're not required to have treatment. In the second category, they would be required to have treatment. And if their treatment corrects their sleep apnea, they're allowed to drive. If they then fit into the severe category, that would be those persons who are not adherent or not responsive to treatment. And the way that that's defined at this point in time, basically the standard that's used for non-adherent is a Medicare standard, which says that the person needs to be using their treatment, which in most cases is CPAP, at least 4 hours a night, 70% of the time. And if they're not responsive to treatment, then that's actually, someone who's not able to, with treatment, meet our criteria in terms of the apnea-hypopnea index and their sleepiness score. However, what I will say is that even those drivers who are not adherent or not able to be treated, we will work with those drivers. And if they're willing to work with their clinicians to pursue finding adequate treatment and becoming compliant with that treatment, with a letter from their physician recommending that we allow them to drive while they're working with that person to get further workup, we do actually allow them to drive unless they already have a history of problem driving in regards to that condition. So just in a quick overview, that's the process. So we don't have a lot of drivers that are suspended every year because of this condition. We do work with people, and if they're willing to work with their doctor to get treated and find effective treatment and be compliant with that treatment, we do try to work with them so that they don't lose their license in that process. So
Thank you. That's very, very helpful. And I think it's a good review. It's a good reminder of what Medical Advisory Board is all about and why they're so important. Thank you for that. Representative Danny Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, would you entertain a motion?
Absolutely.
I would move on regards to LD 1359 ought not to pass.
Motion is made, ought not to pass. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Discussion. Very helpful. Yes, Representative Wayne Perry.
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, I think I don't recall us having the medical board people or the thing before the committee before, and I think I've been in my 5 terms. I think this is a good idea to possibly, have them come forward. And Mr. Kinney mentioned about they're looking at some of the standards and possibly see how, the other states do it and how it affects people moving here. We have people moving here every day. So that might be something that the committee wants to look at, and maybe, work up something on that.
That's a good point. It's probably one of the best kept secrets in the Department of Secretary of State and maybe even in overall government. And it might be wise for future Transportation Committee members or committees to ask them to come in like we do other parts of state government to explain to the committee what you do. That was very, very helpful. Other questions? We have a motion ought not to pass, duly seconded. We're ready for the vote. Darlene, it's yours.
Okay, Senator Diamond,
Yes.
Representative Danny Martin,
Yes.
Senator Farren,
Yes.
Representative Perkins,
Yes.
Representative Perry,
Yes.
Representative Williams. Oh, we lost her. Representative Dustin White is absent, Senator Chipman absent, Representative Bryant,
Yes.
Representative Bruce White,
Yes.
Representative Tom Martin. Seem to have lost him. Representative O'Connell
Yes.
and Representative Seaver is absent. 8 in the affirmative. Oh, well, never mind, make that 9. There's Representative Martin, Tom Martin. It's ought not to pass.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, 9 in the affirmative.
Thank you. The motion ought not to pass prevails 9-0. Representative.
Yes.
Representative Tom Martin was looking at himself
Yes.
with his sunglasses.
Yep.
Now he's repeating, yes, yes.
Okay, we'll close the work session on LD 1359. Now, the next one is a similar thing. We need to have separate votes, of course, but it's LD 1398. An act to change driver's license requirements for obstructive sleep apnea. That was put in by Representative Wadsworth. Senator Farren.
Yes, Mr. Chair, based upon the previous testimony and what we've seen through this thing, I would make a motion of ought not to pass for 1398.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded, ought not to pass for 1398. Discussion. Seeing none. Darlene, it's you.
Senator Diamond,
Yes.
Representative Martin,
Yes.
Senator Farren,
Yes.
Representative Perkins,
Yes.
Representative Perry,
Yes.
Representative Williams. Oh, she's absent. Representative Dustin White, absent. Senator Chipman is absent. Representative Bryant,
Yes.
Representative Bruce White,
Yes.
Representative Tom Martin,
Yes.
Yes.
I heard you. Representative O'Connell
Yes.
and Representative Seaver absent. 9 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
Motion ought not to pass prevails 9-0. So we'll close the work session on LD 1398. The last bill we have today is LD 537, an act to dedicate sections of the main interstate highway system to fallen troopers. And as we heard in the public hearing, there was obviously some federal guidelines that would have gotten in the way of this. As a result of it, long story short, the Department of Transportation, the Maine Turnpike Authority, and the Department of Public Safety all got together. We had 2 meetings that I attended, and then they met a third time, and they have come up with what I think the committee will find to be not only acceptable, but a real appropriate way to recognize these fallen troopers that does not violate any federal regulations. In fact, I think it's a solution that's going to be even more productive and rewarding than originally started. So I know that Megan Russo from the department was part of those discussions. Megan, were you ready to talk about the final proposal to the committee?
I'm bringing her in right now. Come on. Megan.
You see your name?
I'm
Oh,
here.
There you go.
I'm here.
Very good.
Hi.
I'm not sure if you heard, I just gave a brief intro of what you all been doing and the good work that's come out, and everybody is really, seems really happy with this. So would you explain to the committee what the suggested proposal is to this bill, LA 537?
Sure. So as Senator Diamond said, we had a couple meetings with that, which he attended. During those meetings, it was determined that because of federal guidelines and some of the concerns that MTA had, that we would identify locations on main secondary roads that these signs, these memorial signs could be placed. So after that meeting occurred, Steve Landry, the state traffic engineer, myself, former State Senator Dave Burns, and the gentleman that was representing the Retired Troopers Association met and identified those locations that would be best suited for each individual each trooper that had passed away, where those signs, where it would be dedicated and where the signs would be located. I did share that list with Sam if the committee is interested in seeing it. And I also shared with Sam a template of what the sign will look like, what will be going on the roadway. And in addition to that, we do plan on making a mock-up of the sign for the fallen troopers' family members, as well as one of the memorial license plates that we currently make now when someone in public safety passes away for their funeral procession.
Questions of Megan. Representative Danny Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Megan, I think this is a great piece of legislation. I'm just wondering, who sponsored this bill?
Our great chairman, Senator Diamond.
Oh, really? Okay, thank you.
Well, yes, it is. I'll tell you, it was an honor to do it. I mean, talking to the public safety people and then seeing how DOT and the MTA, Peter Mills was fantastic. Megan and DOT was fantastic. And then you brought them all together and we were able to recognize these fallen troopers, not only on better than being on the turnpike, in my opinion, there's in locations where they actually served. And so their family and relatives and friends are going to be able to see those signs. And I think it was a wonderful conclusion that they all came up with. So I was proud to be part of that. Questions of Megan? We do have signs, templates of the signs available. At some point, we can show the committee members so they can see what they look, maybe just get one in and take a look at it. Oh, the other thing, yeah, I guess that's it. Sam.
Oh, I just wanted to let everybody know that I did include what Megan provided me in like the email with my bill analysis. So you should all have the copies that you can look at for examples.
Perfect. Very good. Other questions from the committee? Very good. Thanks again for everybody that worked on this. It really did come out better than I ever anticipated. Representative Danny Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move ought to pass as amended.
Motion is ought to pass as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Discussion on that motion? Seeing none. Darlene.
Let's try that again. Senator Diamond.
Yes.
Representative Martin.
Yes.
Senator Farren.
Yes.
Representative Perkins.
Yes.
Representative Perry.
Yes.
And Representative Williams still absent. Representative Dustin White is absent. Senator Chipman absent. Representative Bryant.
Yes.
Representative Bruce White.
Yes.
Representative Tom Martin.
Yes.
Representative O'Connell.
Yes.
And Representative Seaver is absent. So 9 in the affirmative and 0 in the negative.
Thank you very much. The motion ought to pass as amended prevails 9-0. So we'll close the work session on 5:37. Thank you. I would inform the committee, in case you weren't keeping score, of the 9 bills. We had 8 unanimous reports so far. We would have had all 9 if it hadn't been for Representative O'Connell. So we really We really appreciate that. Thank you for that good work. It really is something else to see how you guys work. Tomorrow, we have really our last loaded work session day. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 bills. And if you get a chance, take a look at them, do that. I think we're going to be able to deal with those as well as we did these today. So other comments, Representative Wayne Perry.
I make a motion not to pass on all 12 bills right now. No.
Wow, you just saved us a lot of work. Oh, no.
Created a lot for me, though.
I try.
You can't do that. Representative Danny Martin.
Yeah, just a reminder, folks, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, right?
That's right, 9 o'clock, 9 a.m. and we'll try to be as efficient. Today was just about 2.5 hours, which is not bad. And actually it's very, very good. So we'll work hard tomorrow at 9 and see if we can wrap up most of these things. And we'll just have a few straggling bills afterwards and we'll talk about those at the appropriate time, but not tomorrow. So anything else? Seeing none.
No,
Yes.
hold on. Because
Yeah.
some of you, I sent 3 emails yesterday for approvals on votes. Can you respond to those before I bombard you with a whole bunch more?
In fact, we can bring those people up one at a time if you'd like.
No, you guys have to respond via email.
Oh, I know. I know. Say, we'll remind.
Public humiliation is what he's
No,
referring.
well,
That's what I'm talking about, public humiliation.
no, they're at the bottom of the
Can I
pile.
just ask, am I on the list, Darlene?
Some of you answered 2 of them and didn't answer the other one. Every one of you is kind of guilty.
You just.
What?
I just want you to say-
Wait, except
No,
for
I was
Representative
not on the
O'Connell, who
list.
did answer all 3.
Yeah, leave it to Representative.
You only sent me one.
I sent you 3.
Yeah, I
669,
think this confused-
That was the only one.
645, and 1110.
See those numbers again, just so we all can check. them.
665, 649, and 1110.
Okay, you sure this wasn't 669?
So I said 669, you answered.
Okay.
645, you didn't answer. And
didn't?
1110,
Darlene,
I thought I replied to all of them.
you might have.
Darlene,
Okay.
I
Yes.
only received 669.
Well, I sent it to the whole Transportation Committee, but I'll send it again. I'll just send a reminder
All right.
because
We'll-
next
we'll
week
check-
you're going to get hammered with them.
We'll check in tomorrow and see how we're doing. So,
Darlene, wait just a second. On 669, were you talking about reporting out bills?
No, I just need their signatures because
Okay,
of the
okay,
way
just
they
making
voted.
sure.
No, I'm not
Just
reporting
making sure.
anything out
Okay.
without talking to you.
Okay.
all right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for all the work. You did a great job. Appreciate it. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, Darlene, too, for keeping after us, Darlene.
Oh, don't worry. The whip is out now. We keep you all in
Yeah, all
line.
right, huh? That's funny.
It's that time of year.
Right.